Now that I've passed through some things that go along with the presentation, and also, by the way, they're on both sides, there's double-sided, I can begin. Stephen Hopkins, Jamestown, the Mayflower, and Me by Colton Davis. Hello there. Today I'm going to talk about the interesting story of Stephen Hopkins. From surviving a hurricane, to almost being hung, to signing the Mayflower Compact, his story has left a mark on the New World. Stephen Hopkins was born to John and Elizabeth Hopkins in the year 1581. His father, John, was a farmer and made the family's money. In 1586, they moved to Winchester from their village southwest of London. It was here where he learned to read and write. When everything seemed to be going well, tragedy struck when Stephen's father died, leaving his mother with 4 kids. Sadly, Stephen's mother could not keep up with all 4 kids. She likely had to give up Stephen. He moved to Hursley, a village just outside of Winchester. We do not know a lot about his teen years, but we do know that in 1605, Stephen was married to Mary. And they had a newborn named Elizabeth. We don't know if they named her in honor of Stephen's mother or not. They couldn't find enough food because they were a poor farming family, which meant they put anything edible on the table. In 1606 and 1608, they had another daughter and a son named Constance and Giles. In 1609, Stephen Hopkins was selected to be a clerk in Jamestown. They needed the money, so he boarded a ship called the Sea Venture. On June 2nd, 1609, the Sea Venture left Plymouth, England for Jamestown. Everything was going great until they found themselves in a deadly Atlantic hurricane. The ship was about to sink, but fortunately morning brought hope. They spotted an island, which is now known by the name of Bermuda. Everyone survived and made it safely to the island. A while had passed, and Stephen could not hold himself back by saying bad things to the governor. The governor was fed up and sentenced Stephen to death by hanging. But Stephen begged and begged for mercy, and the governor dropped the charges. It was 10 months until they finally made it to Jamestown. They found out that Jamestown was going through some hard times. They did not have enough food to go around. Out of the 600 people who started out, only 60 remained due to the starving times. All had decided to leave Jamestown and head back to England, but before they could even sail the James River, an armada of ships led by Lord Delaware, carrying about 1 year of food for 400 colonists, came down the river. Imagine the shock and disappointment on Stephen's face when he saw all those ships full of food, knew he had to stay and work for 6 more years. Stephen possibly inspired the character Stephano in William Shakespeare's play, The Tempest, which came out while Stephen was in Jamestown. When he finally returned to England in 1616, he was likely on the same ship Pocahontas and her husband John Rolfe were on. Sadly, when Stephen came back to England, he received some bad news. His wife, Mary, had died. Although he grieved for his wife, he had children to raise and needed a new wife. In 1618, Stephen married Elizabeth Fisher. Stephen's daughter, Elizabeth, is believed to have died soon after he returned. But they soon welcomed a daughter, Damaris, in 1618. Stephen and his wife wanted to start a new life, so they got on the ship called the Mayflower. On September 6th, 1620, Mayflower set out with 102 passengers. While on the ship, Stephen's wife had a baby named Oceanus. Sadly, Damaris and Oceanus died young, before 1627. On November 9th, 1620, they spotted land. But before they could land, one group of people on the Mayflower grilled the other. On the Mayflower, there were two groups, one being the Pilgrims, and the other being the strangers, who weren't part of the Pilgrims' religion. Stephen actually was a stranger. The strangers stated that when they landed, they didn't want to be jailed for not believing in the Pilgrims' faith. So they came to agreement. The Mayflower Compact would say that they could not prosecute the strangers for their faith, and a lot of men signed it, including Stephen Hopkins. By December 23rd, the Mayflower's passengers were ready to build a town. Stephen's household consisted of himself, his wife, 4 children, and 2 servants. Can you imagine how much people would be in that household? It'd be a lot. The group faced 2 big problems, one being weather and the other being health. By the end of March in 1621, half the passengers and crew had died. We know Damaris and Oceanus died, but we do not know if it was because of that winter. There were several Indian sightings, and Captain Standish and Stephen were the first to try to make contact, but the Indians were skittish and scattered. By the time spring arrived, a native named Samoset walked into their village. Samoset speak English. He spent the night in Stephen's house, then he left. And then he came back with Squanto, who showed them how to plant corn using fish. Stephen had a key role making peace with Massasoit and the Wampanoag. After the harvest of 1621, which was successful, there was a big feast with the Indians that lasted 3 days. Today we call it Thanksgiving. Today I've told you about the guy who is not in the history books but touched history. In 1644, Stephen died at the age of 63, leaving behind 10 children, 37 grandchildren. One of those children was Deborah, who grew up and married a man named Andrew Ring. Andrew and his parents, William and Mary, were on the Speedwell but didn't make it over in 1620. Eventually, Andrew made it to Plymouth. If he hadn't, I wouldn't be speaking here today. Any questions?
So, why wouldn't you be here today? What does that mean?
I'm related to Stephen Hopkins, the guy up here.
Okay.
He goes down through Deborah Hopkins and Andrew Ring. He goes down through Eliezer Ring and Mary Shaw.
You don't have to read all of them.
And then it goes down through all these people. And it goes down to me here at the bottom.
So, what is Stephen Hopkins to you?
He is a 10th great-grandfather.
10th great-grandfather. Okay, what's that thing on the side?
Oh, this thing?
Mm-hmm.
This is, if you look closely, this is a sign-up sheet for the Mayflower Society, or the Society of Mayflower Descendants, which was signed by Andrew Ring.
It's a Joshua.
I was trying to say Joshua.
Joshua. It was
Joshua
your
Andrew
great-great-uncle.
Joshua Andrew
He's
Ring.
not on there, but it was Gladys's sister.
Yeah?
Right there.
Yeah,
Your
it's not on
great-great.
here, but it's your sister.
And then, what could you tell us about your timeline? What's on the other side?
This is the timeline of everything that happened. From when he was born, which is up here, to when he died, which is up here.
What you can tell him, that top left corner, that's where he was baptized. Okay.
Oh, I got a question.
Okay.
Why was he almost hung? What did he say to the governor?
Oh, so that's an interesting story. So he was charged with mutiny, and the reason he was charged with mutiny was because they landed on Bermuda. You know that? They landed on Bermuda, and Bermuda was inhabited by the Spanish, but they left like 20 years earlier or around there and left some hogs for passing travelers. That's the only sign that people were there. So no one technically owned the island. There was like no one on the island. So when they shipwrecked, the governor tried to lay claim to the island, but Stephen and some other people spoke up, and since Stephen was kind of the ringleader, they were going to hang him for mutiny, but he begged and they dropped the charges, because the governor kind of realized he wasn't the owner of the island.
So he basically escaped death from a shipwreck hurricane and death from hanging.
Yeah, he has been
death from starvation.
And death from starvation. And then man, you wouldn't be here.
Death from sickness. Because
Yep, because of the illness, because his family was mostly the ones that were left. In fact, his wife, Elizabeth, was one of the few women at the first Thanksgiving, and their daughter, Constance, from Stephen's first marriage. What's this?
This is the Mayflower Compact. This is in...
What does it have to do with Stephen?
He has his name signed on there. You can see it clear back here. It's down.
you can see clear on the other one.
Yeah.
It kind of assumed that he was probably, if it was in order, number 14. He was probably the 14th person to sign it.
Now, and this thing over here
His two servants were the last two.
is the Mayflower's, the passenger list.
The list of passengers. How many were there on the Mayflower?
102. 2 died, 2 were born.
What?
Yeah, 2 died. If you look at the
Does it say that on here?
it says 2 died at sea.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh.
Servant died and a stranger died.
And then
Christopher Martin.
And then
Okay.
a stranger was born.
So there were 102.
And 2
They
died.
2 died, and
And
then
2 were
Oceanos was born. So it's 101 that.
And then you have one. You have to add this one right here.
Well, yeah, Elizabeth.
Was born at sea.
Oh yeah, Peregrine. She was born. Was she born at sea? I thought she was born when she arrived in America. Oh, what's this other map? What does that tell?
Well, this is the travels of Stephen Hopkins. So it goes from when he was going down to Jamestown, he shipwrecked on Bermuda. Then when he got to Jamestown, then when he went back. To
What year
Plymouth,
did he go back?
He went back in 1616, and then in the 4th journey when he went to Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Did he ever leave the New World again?
Nope.
No. Do we know where he's buried?
No.
Not 100% sure, but we think maybe Burial Hill.
They're probably buried at this place. He may be buried up here in Burial Hill, but
What's that? What's that dark picture? This one, by the Indians. What is that supposed to be? It's like a plaque.
that is the first hostile encounter with Indians. When Indians got they were pretty angry, and they kind of chased them off, and so what happened was they were building bam, 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 working, and this Indian went by. He alerted everyone. Everyone grabbed their muskets and everything, ready for a fight. But that Indian just went, doop.
So what's the house
What house?
over to the right? Whose house is that?
That's Stephen's house.
His real house?
It's a replica, but it's what they thought it probably looked like.
And then what's that house up in the upper left-hand corner?
Where he was born.
Upper left.
That's where he was born, and it's a recreation.
That's where that's actually the church where he was baptized.
Baptized.
And that was in England. Okay, any other questions? All right.
Oh, I got one.
Oh, one more.
What?
Did you do all of this, or did you have some help?
I had some help with my
Oh,
mom.
yeah? Okay.
The person that is right here. Hey, don't cover your face.